Expand Your Horizon Preview Edition for the first rounds of the tournament. We're going to be talking about previewing the play-in game for Monday, which is March 2nd, and then we're going to be talking about the first round games on Wednesday. Actually, a first round game is going to happen on Tuesday, March 3rd, and then we got the rest of the games in the first round on March 4th. I am Bob McDonald, and joining me is my co-host who will probably be at that Tuesday game, Jim Saro.
I will definitely be at that Tuesday game. I purchased my tickets. I'm ready to go. I had a number of people reach out to me and be like, "Hey, who's using your extra seat for that game?" So there's interest in Horizon League tournament basketball. It's exciting, exciting time.
Speaking of tickets, we are sponsored by the Horizon League. They want to let you know that tickets are on sale now. Of course they are. Make your plan to be in Indy, March 8th through the 10th. That's next Sunday through Tuesday for the 2026 Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. After you get all the insights from us here at the Horizon Roundtable, visit horizonleague.com/Indy for championships information, including game tickets and much more. And remember, fans can save 50% off select ticket offerings by using the offer code HL2026. Remember, March starts here in Indianapolis at Corteva Coliseum, March 8th through the 10th. By the way, we're going to have, as we've been doing the last couple of episodes, we're going to have that offer code in the podcast, in the episode description. So if you miss me saying that entire code, I'm going to have it on the podcast description. Don't worry, you don't have to write it down or rewind this episode 4 or 5 times to figure out what I was saying. So let's get into the play-in game, Jim. It is Cleveland State. They're the 10 seed. They're going to be hosting IU Indy. And Cleveland State has been having some issues. They've lost
Cleveland
7 games
State.
in a row. I don't know. It does not seem like we're going to see Dan Nessa this game. And the last time these teams played, IU Indy could not miss, and Cleveland missed 3-pointers, and Cleveland State could not hit 3-pointers. That said, these are two shooting teams, and both of them have a shooter's chance, that's for sure. Literally
Yeah,
the only thing they have going for them.
it, tempo wise, like it should be a fast played game. Although the second, I can't remember one of the two games they played. They actually played a reasonably low score. So we'll see what happens in this particular game. Obviously, IU Indy and Cleveland State aren't coming in with the most momentum. Cleveland State in particular, though, has been riding the struggle bus, and they're going to need to get themselves sorted out here in a hurry. I do really like, and I didn't put him on my all conference play, but a wild card in a game like this is Jaden Lipscomb. Obviously, you don't have
Yeah.
um, Nessa right now, but Lipscomb has had a quietly good season, and it's probably the kind of X factor where at his length and athletic ability, he's got to be a tough matchup for IU Indy defensively with the players that IU Indy has available to them. So I think a big Lipscomb game could go a long way for Cleveland State to keep their season alive. But it's definitely been a tale of 3 seasons for Cleveland State. They started off slow, got really hot, and were putting scares into people, and then just the wheels fell off the wagon for them here at the end. So, um,
That it
you know,
did. That it did for sure. All right. And the winner of this particular game gets to go to the Nutter Center on Wednesday night to play Wright State. We'll preview that game specifically on the Wright State end momentarily, but we have a little bit of a hitch in the schedule for this tournament uh, because on Tuesday, Green Bay is going to be hosting a game against Purdue Fort Wayne. And this requires a little bit of explanation. I think you had mentioned, I don't remember if you had mentioned this last week, but there's a reason that the men's game is taking place on Tuesday instead of Wednesday.
yeah, the Green Bay women won the Horizon League regular season championship, and the women's tournament operates on the same format and schedule as the men's tournament. And so the Green Bay women are hosting a first round game against the 10-11 play-in winner, which is, I believe, Milwaukee, and is it Detroit? Sounds right.
I
I
believe
can't
so,
remember.
yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah, Milwaukee
yep,
and Milwaukee and the Detroit Mercy are the playing game for that
yep.
particular on that side
And
of the bracket.
yeah, and so when you think about this particular Green Bay men, the last time the men and women played in the Horizon League tournament on the same day in the Crest Center 2 years ago, you had Green Bay women play early, you had the men play late against Milwaukee. There's not enough practice space. There's not enough to turn the building over. The women's crowd is pretty sizable. The men's crowd that day was also pretty sizable, over 3,000 people.
Sure.
The building and the logistics are not set up to do that. So to do right by all teams, making sure that they get in and out of the building, that they get an ample practice time, that they're able to shoot around and do what they need to do to get ready, because these are the games that matter most.
Oh
They
yeah.
move the game. The game's going to be played on Tuesday, and plus it also creates, for Green Bay women, they've earned the right to have their game in prime time for their fans and not be bumped to 5 o'clock or something right when work is ending. So
Of
overall,
course.
it's a good fit for the league. I'm actually appreciative that the league was able to be flexible in their scheduling to allow the game to happen on Tuesday.
Hmm.
Now, with that said, when Green Bay, whoever wins the game and they get an extra day's rest going into Sunday in Indianapolis, I'm sure we'll hear about it from the opposing coaches, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and last time, and Green Bay swept the series in the regular season. And the last game, they didn't have too many troubles against Purdue Fort Wayne because they won that game relatively easily. Uh, they
Wire
had
to
a
wire on that one.
they had a major. I mean, if you look at the last game in Fort Wayne, I'm not in Fort Wayne, in Green Bay, while Purdue Fort Wayne, this is actually one of the few games where Purdue Fort Wayne actually out rebounded a team. Not that much. It was 26-23. But you look at the points in the paint. You look at the points in the paint. Green Bay dominated. They had a 42-30-28 advantage in the paint. And the other thing too, yeah, there weren't that many rebounds because Green Bay wasn't missing all that much. They shot 58% in that game. And they were able to keep, and more to the point, and this, I believe this was also true in the first game, that Green Bay was able to keep Purdue Fort Wayne kind of streaky from beyond the arc. And I feel like that's going to definitely be work to their advantage as well. Um, I feel like they definitely have. This is actually one of those games where Green Bay didn't actually shoot all that many three pointers. I think they only shot 8 in this game because they knew what
Yeah.
their game was in this particular game. And I don't think they're gonna. I feel like if they want to, advance, they need to keep to that strategy, dominate the paint, and keep Purdue Fort Wayne off the 3-point line.
Yeah, Green Bay is not going to deviate from their game plan. It'll be interesting to see if Fort Wayne pressures them earlier, trying to speed them up. But Green Bay doesn't really deviate from that, slow play, working on getting Allen and Hall and O'Hara at the rim. And anything about some of the other guys that they do play in the rotation. LeBron Thomas is a good finisher at the rim. Ramel Bethea, all his points are at the rim. Vukasan Todorovic, all his points are basically at the rim as well, except for a wild three he hit against Oakland. So Green Bay has enough guys that are, capable of putting pressure on the rim, and they find them in. This is really going to be about defensive effort from Fort Wayne. If their
Hmm.
defensive energy and effort isn't high enough and good enough, Green Bay will pick them apart. And conversely, for Green Bay, they did a really good job in the first game of getting back and stopping transition. They got to get back and build their wall, and so it helps when you make shots because then it's easier to get back on defense. So we'll see what we
Sure.
get, but it's kind of an interesting factor. I don't want to ruin all the previews right out of the gate, but the home team swept the visiting team in all the games that we know for sure. And
Hmm.
Wright State, the only one that wasn't a sweep, they swept IU Indy. They split with Cleveland State. So, the old adage for any of these teams is going to be it's hard to beat somebody 3 times. Well, we're going to get 4 or 5 tries at that in the
Sure.
Horizon League
Oh,
first round.
absolutely. We definitely are. Um, I want to say this before we get into the rest of the first round games on Wednesday. Do want to mention again, tickets are on sale for the Horizon League championships in Indy. So definitely make your plans to be there March 8th through the 10th. And after you get the rest of our insights here at the Horizon Roundtable, horizonleague.com/Indy. Go visit there. Get championships information, including game tickets and much more. And remember, and again, 50% off of select tickets, guys. You can use that offer code HL2026 to get those. March starts here in Indianapolis at Corteva Coliseum, March 8th through the 10th. Let's get into that Wednesday, the first Wednesday game. So Wright State is going to play the winner of Cleveland State and IU Indy. And no matter who wins that play-in game, Wright State is going to. I feel like Wright State's going to have the advantage. Yes, Cleveland State beat Wright State at the Nutter Center, but Cleveland State had Dan Nessa in that game, and he went out for 31. And if he's not playing this week, that's going to be a much bigger problem. Conversely, IU Indy has been gave Wright State some headaches, but Wright State always found a way to win, and I feel no matter who the team is, I feel like Wright State has got to have definitely going to have a decided advantage, especially the way they played especially the way they played last week, especially after that a super tough come from behind win against Northern Kentucky.
Well, you think of the strength of Wright State, they have all that length inside, and neither IU Indy or Cleveland State really have much size to speak of. So
No.
that's going to be a factor for either team, whichever one makes it to Dayton is going to be at a disadvantage compared to Michael Amargabe, as an example.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's just one of those things where you're like sitting there, like, yeah, that's probably going to be how that goes down.
Well, and then
Neither Cleveland State. Neither Cleveland State or IU Indy is going to have an answer for Michael Amargabe. They just aren't.
and then the other
That's
guy
been pretty much proven.
I would say, and the other, really big factor for Wright State, you look at the league leader in steals in conference play, TJ Birch.
Hmm.
If you want to play fast and you're not careful with the ball, that's a guy that's going to pick your pocket and go the other way on you. So Wright State is definitely going to be a hard matchup for either of these two teams, and it should be, right? This is the league's regular season champion going against the 10th and 11th place teams in the league, and they're going to do it at home. Wright State always draws a good crowd. I'm sure that a Wednesday Horizon League game is going to be no different for them. I expect Wright State to, put their best foot forward here. And like we talked about in the last episode of the regular podcast, I'm sure that didn't feel good the way that they won last week, but they're battle tested. They're proven.
Yeah,
they're ready to go.
They are. Very true. Very true. All right, well, let's get into this is at 7. All these games are at 7 p.m. Eastern. All right, so let's get into the Northern Kentucky game and Oakland. Oakland is hosting that first round game at the arena. And it's going to be one of those games where Oakland is definitely going to. I feel like this is a good matchup for Oakland. Whereas had Northern Kentucky become the 6th seed, it might have been a much tougher matchup for Green Bay. I feel like Oakland matches up pretty well on this particular occasion. I feel like they have I feel like they definitely have the size advantage. My concern, and this is kind of carrying over from what I talked about in the regular podcast, is the short rotation. Now they didn't have a problem during the regular season with this rotation. I mean, when the last time these two teams played, Oakland won at the arena. So to your point, it's always hard to beat teams 3 times in the season. So yeah, maybe. Now, one of the other things too is that that is definitely going to be a challenge for them, and it's definitely going to be something to look for.
Yeah, you've got 2 interesting defensive styles going. Matchup wise, on the player front, you have, when you think about Wells and Robinson, you've got Garrett and Buru. When you think about Goresger, you've got Brody. When you think about O'Day, you have Wells. This is, it's a compelling matchup. Like, there's not a spot where you'd look and say, well, one team has a decided advantage, in terms of like they've got the absolute best player and they're going against a guy who's, the absolute worst starter at the same spot in the league.
Sure.
So I feel like that's a really good matchup that way. Like I said, 2 interesting defenses going. we're getting, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde a little bit from both teams because neither one of them is exactly playing great basketball right now. So I couldn't tell you
Mhm.
who's going to win this game, but it is a very compelling matchup to watch for sure.
I should point out LJ Wells was not in the game, the last game at the arena, so I feel he might be an X factor going into this game. So definitely something to take a look at. All right, so the next 7 p.m. Eastern game, we're looking at. Oh boy, I should know these. I've been saying these by heart lately. It's definitely going to be Youngstown State heading to UPMC to play Robert Morris. You know, this is, Youngstown State has had if I'm being, yeah, for lack of a better word, they've had a pretty erratic regular season. That has been lots of ups and downs, more downs than ups, it looks like. Robert Morris, on the other hand, is playing their best basketball right now. So I feel like they definitely, Robert Morris definitely has the advantage. And it seems like one of the things I thought would be a strength for Youngstown State this season, which is their front court play. I feel like Robert Morris definitely has the advantage. Definitely has the advantage up front, which is something I wasn't 100% sure was going to be the case. I mean, we knew what we were getting from Deshaun Good. We didn't necessarily know what we were getting from Nikos Hitakudis, but they have been outstanding this season. And from a matchup standpoint, I don't feel like Youngstown State on paper should be able to square up in the front court with them, but they just haven't.
A leopard doesn't change its spots, Bob. And in the case of Youngstown State, they have guys with size. But if you think of in the case of Carroll, he plays on the perimeter. In the case of Rich Rolfe, he plays more on the perimeter. Vlad plays a little inside, but he's also, a perimeter threat. And so it's very difficult, if you're on one end of the court floating around on the perimeter, offensively, it's hard to then go on the other end and be an impact player defensively and on the glass.
Sure,
Conversely, Chitakudis is a really good example of a guy who with zero perimeter game who is all about living and dying in the paint on both ends. And Deshaun Good
sure,
has a little more perimeter game, but he really sticks to the calling card of, being, doing all his work closer to the hoop. And so
mhm,
while the matchup on paper seems like it should be, more even in the front court play, they're just different kinds of front court
sure.
players. And
All
so
right.
Youngstown spread you out and make it work, and Dawkins is dynamic going to the hoop. Um, yeah, but I almost think they're like a momentum team. Like when they get momentum
Oh
going, when
yeah,
Carroll and Dawkins and like, if they're barking and woofing a little bit, and they've got mojo on their side, they're a tough team. But if they don't have that going because they're not getting stops and rebounds, they're like cruising through the games, and they're not hungry enough all the time, which is why they finished whatever they 8-12 in the league instead of in first place like I thought they would.
all right. Well, and that brings us to the last game in the first round. It's going to be Milwaukee uh, going to Callahan Hall to play Detroit Mercy. It's a 7 p.m. Eastern game. Uh, Milwaukee gave Detroit Mercy a few headaches the last time these two played, but at the end of the day, the big advantage Detroit Mercy has is, I mean, I don't want to say Orlando Lovejoy, but he has been an absolute force for Detroit Mercy down the stretch. Not to mention the fact that Detroit Mercy, given all the injuries that Milwaukee has had specifically in the front court, Detroit Mercy certainly has the advantage up front.
Yeah, with Lovejoy, he is dynamic going to the basket, but where he doesn't go all the way to the basket. He likes that floater game. He likes to be 8 feet out in the lane, and he's at his height. That works really well for him because the defense doesn't come all the way up to stop him, and he just drops those shots in. He's a guy who takes difficult shots, so right now nobody has got him checked. Nobody has him slowed down. The rim is a mile wide for him right now. But
Hmm.
the opportunity for any team playing Detroit, it all is about Lovejoy. If Lovejoy is rolling, you are in trouble. If Lovejoy is having a difficult day, you've got a really good opportunity to win. And in the case of Lovejoy, if you think about probably Stevie Elam is the guy who's physically best equipped from Milwaukee to defend him. I think Josh Dixon is a little small, and Dorcius has been a little inconsistent. Pippa White's a little on the smaller side. So somebody is just got to take that matchup in their hands and say, "Damn it, I'm stopping this guy," or at least giving him a harder day than he's had. And if you can do that, they've probably got a decent chance to win. But they're not going to have the rim protection, with
No.
the inconsistency of Fields and some of the other big guys. They're not going to have the rim protection, and have a guy back there to kind of clean up mistakes if you can't corral Lovejoy. If you can't corral Lovejoy, he's going to give you fits.
Which he did in the last game, so stands a reason he's prime. He's certainly primed to do that again. And he's been doing that a whole lot down the stretch, and he's ready. He's ready. He's ready. When Detroit Mercy is ready too. I mean, they've been waiting a long time for this, so um, that's gonna wrap it up. And this is the season finale. This is it, man. Um. I mean, theoretically, we get another season. I guess we'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, it's been fun to preview the games every week and talk a little bit about the matchups in particular. And now the matchups are when they matter most. And for all the fans who listen to the Horizon Roundtable, use that coupon code. Get yourself to Indianapolis. You won't regret
Absolutely.
it. The games are fun. This is the culmination of the whole season. Everything that people have poured themselves into as players and coaches, and for the fans who are really invested, this is the time. So hopefully we'll see you
Absolutely.
next week in Indianapolis.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for us here. HorizonRoundtable.com. That's where you can find all past episodes of this preview podcast and the regular podcast, and you can pull up all our articles. So, um, thank you all for listening. It's been a great season once again, and hopefully we'll see you on this preview podcast next year.